All right, so we are looking at a Sphero program, and I'm going to explain as best as I can figure out what I'm doing here. So this is on start program. We're going to loop forever, so everything encompassing the loop is inside of this block here. I'm telling it to roll at 100 speed for 1 second, and then I wrote this function over here called myfunc. We're passing in sensor data, which we've got a variable inside the function called sensor that we're actually working with, but we're passing in the pitch from the gyroscope. So the function says that if the sensor is greater than 20, then we're going to stop the program and exit. And forget the else. I've got some other plans for this, but this is not really important at the moment. So I'm basically telling it that if the pitch gyroscope is greater than 20, then we're supposed to stop the program and exit. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what the Sphero is doing, and this is a Sphero Bolt. I'm going to show you what it's doing, and then we're going to take a look at the sensor data when it's finished. So we're going to, I got to aim it here real quick. Get it turned around. Whoops. Not sure. Get it turned around here to point to the wall. I don't know why that keeps closing. Okay, so we're going to start the program. So what we're supposed to do is roll for 1 second, and then we're going to analyze what the pitch is. And then if it's okay, then we'll come back in here and we'll roll again for 1 second, and we'll just continue to do this forever. So we're going to go ahead and start the program. Okay, and so it stopped itself. And so we're going to take a look at the sensor data, and we're going to jump down here to the orientation. And so here is and right now we're looking at the pitch data being greater than 20. It should stop. So at 1 second, it was 15, so it should have kept going. But you'll notice right here, it was all the way up to 49. But the problem with the fact that we can't really analyze what is going on with the pitch is that we're only able to look at it when the unit stops moving. And so because we can't, at least I haven't been able to figure out how to get it to look at it in real time, I have to wait until my time interval is up and then look at it at that particular point. But we're going to do a couple tests here, and you'll see that this is not even consistent with what I'm saying. So right now you'd say, okay, well, even though it surpassed its limit, it wasn't surpassed at 1 second. And so we're going to jump over here to 2 seconds, which it should have looked again, and it's still okay. And then we're going to come over here to 3 seconds, and you can see at that point it looked at it and everything worked exactly like it was supposed to, and it stopped. And so that's all good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the Sphero back over here. So we're going to do our little turn around and run thing. And then I'm going to turn it back around. Okay, so we're just going to do the exact same thing that we just did. We're going to do again. So we're just going to cancel this. We're not going to change anything in the program. Okay, and so this time we're going to come back over here and look at the sensor data, go back to orientation. And so here we are at 1 second. And again, even though we surpassed it here, we're still at 1 second, we're at 15. At 2 seconds, we're over here at 7. So at this point, it quit running. And so it had already hit the wall, but the thing quit running at this pitch 7, which makes no sense at all because it wasn't in its threshold. So I don't know what caused that. So now we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to go back up here to drive it back away from the wall. And then we're going to turn it back around. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run it again. Okay, so we're going to come back over here and look at our sensor data. Go back to orientation. So at 1 second, we were at 19. So we should have kept running. At 2 seconds, we were good. At 3 seconds, we are again at 19. At 4 seconds, it was at 46. So it worked again. So that time it made sense. So let's do it one more time. So we're going to get it, drive it back over here. Whew. All right, so things a little impossible to turn there. All right, so now we're going to run it again. So we're going to come back over here. So at the moment, it actually, because I'm recording, it is actually seeming to be working. So that was below, that was below, that at 3 seconds. So at 3 seconds, okay, so this is basically what I was hoping to capture. So at this time, just like the second time we ran it, the thing is we're hitting the 3 second, which we should have stopped to call the function to see if we were above 20. We were at 3 seconds, we were actually over 20, but the program still didn't stop running. It kept running for a whole nother second. And so then until 4 seconds, it ran and determined that it had gone over its limit. So it's not catching its limits. Even if you run it, this is a really crappy way to do this. And the reason that I'm having to do it this way is because they have, and I'll show you how you really ought to be doing this, is there is an onCollision event here. And so technically I should be able to say onCollision. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag these two guys over here. So onCollision, it should stop. And now there's nothing here that's going to happen unless it determines that it has had a collision. And so I'm going to do one more quick and watch, it'll work this time, but we'll do it anyway. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to get it back away from the wall. All right, and so now we are going to get out of here and start our recording again. And see, just as I would have, oh my gosh, this thing just drives you crazy. So let's try it one more time. And the reason is because it actually worked that time. But most of the time, it does not detect this. And that worked twice in a row. So, but I can sit here and do this, and it will eventually, I'll do it one more time, but most of the time, this does not actually work. And now it's working perfectly. So anyway, that's what should happen. The problem is that you know, we're trying to work on a project here, and it is just totally not consistent. And you can see on the sensor data that it's not consistent. One minute it works, the next minute it doesn't, and it's really difficult to try to figure out what exactly is going on. Primarily because there's really no good way to debug this while it's running. But you know, the bigger deal, if the onCollision thing works properly, which at the moment it just did it 3 times in a row and worked, but that's the first time that's ever happened. But if the collision data thing worked, or the onCollision worked, then I really wouldn't even have a problem. I don't have to look at the sensor as it's running. But there really ought to be a way to look at the sensor as it's running, because it is doing it. It's recording that data, but there's really because there's no event to monitor the sensor as the thing is running across the floor, there really is no good way to use a sensor to stop it from doing something. And so this brings me to my final dilemma with this product, is that we've purchased the thing. We have, we've fairly figured out how to do the programming, but I have actually to date sent probably no less than 6 emails into support to try to get some help with the product, and have received 0 responses back. I have placed about 4 or 5 phone calls in, and the one thing I will say is they do have people that answer the telephone when you call, so that's at least something. But so far, the people that I have called to ask questions about the way the product works, none of them have been able to answer the phones or answer the questions. So they all end up telling me that they're going to put something in with development and get back with me, but so far no one has gotten back with me. So it's been a very frustrating experience, and coupled with the fact that there's very little documentation as to how to do some things in here, like for example how to get hold of this sensor data and actually use it in a meaningful way. It's been a very frustrating experience. I'm hoping, I've been told a couple times now that development was looking into the onCollision thing to give us some way to be able to adjust the sensitivity, or at least fix it so that it is a little bit more sensitive. Hopefully that'll fix the problem, and I'm going to keep playing around with this program to see if I can, maybe turn down the amount of time that this thing is rolling, and try to monitor the gyroscope more often and see if I can, get that to work. But, as you can see, one of the problems with it is the sensor doesn't always record, or I don't know exactly what point it's looking. So if I set it to a quarter second, is it looking at a quarter second and what it is, or is it waiting and looking later? What is the time delay between, the Bluetooth, I guess, sending the data from the device back up here to the computer? Is that why it's off? There's a lot of different parameters or different things going on that may be throwing this thing off. So I'm just going to have to keep playing around with it until I figure something out.